going through the grief of losing my late husband very suddenly. I had 5 children with him. My oldest was 11 at the time, and my youngest was a year. If my late husband could be taken away so suddenly, there was no indication that this was going to happen. Never. I thought there has to be a bigger plan in place. I don't think God is going to intend for me to just walk through my life at this point at 38 for the rest of my life. Hopefully it'll be a long one, alone, and raise my family alone. I just didn't believe it. I just didn't believe it. I knew that I had these very young children that were like watching my every move. And I desperately wanted them to know that even though I didn't feel like I was up for this challenge, that we would be okay. I'd be fine. I would make it seem like I got this. We'll be fine. In reality, I had a team. I had a support system. I had friends. I had friends that would call me and tell me that, oh, you got to sign up for camp or else you're going to be locked out. Or has anybody paid your bills this month? Or, things I had never done. All of a sudden I had to figure out all that whole other part of, that I'd never thought about. That was not my job.
For me, it was all about finding the right person to be with. And there was something about Malkie from the very beginning that was like, this is worth exploring.
And I would just hold on because what else was I doing? Where else was I going? I wasn't getting dates. I wasn't having any no shadchanim were calling me up and saying, I have a guy for you. I think everybody thought, oh, she's still dealing with the loss of her husband. She's not going to want to date for a long time. I had people message me on Instagram that barely know me and say, maybe just raise your children first and then you can start dating. And I was like, that must be really comfortable to do while you're home with your family. How about no? But I have 5 children and the oldest is 11. And he was like, amazing. What are their names? What do they do? What school are they in? What do they like to do? I was like, what on earth? What on earth? Why would anybody in their right minds? And probably up until like last week, I probably asked him, are you sure? Are you sure you want to hang around and stick around here? And he was like,
last week. It was yesterday.
Welcome back to another episode of Stories of Hope. We have something extra special for you here at the studio. This week, we are featuring Malkie and Jeremy, aka Nachi's older sister and brother-in-law, bringing the family to our Stories of Hope family. You're going to learn a little bit more about the Gordons and hear the incredibly inspirational and powerful story of how someone recovered from loss in multiple ways and found love. It's a really special episode, and I can't wait for you to watch it. So if you had the PZ Deals app this week, then you were a very happy camper because you got a notification that Melissa and Doug were giving away free toys. Yup, free toys. This entire week, I've been getting notifications of the products that I want, that the price dropped, from the comfort of my own home, from a free app, getting the best deals. So why wouldn't you download the PZ Deals app where you never pay full price again? You personalize exactly what you want so you don't waste time in your search engines trying to find the cheapest price for your product. You let PZ Deals know it is super easy, super efficient, super quick to use. And then you also get amazing notifications for these insane deals when your alerts are on. So download the PZ Deals app and never pay full price again. Now, if you've been dreaming of owning a luxury watch, upgrading your fragrance collection, or picking out that perfect pair of sunglasses, yeah, I know you want one. Joma Shop has got you covered. It's crazy. They've been around since 1999 and have over 1 million 5-star reviews. No exaggeration. So imagine this. You're looking for that iconic Rolex or a mega watch, or perhaps a new Versace perfume. Joma Shop has all of these and more. They offer everything from high-end fashion to stunning jewelry, all at unbelievable prices. And the crazy part is that there's up to 75% off savings. So you can enjoy the finest luxury items without searching outside of your budget. And the best part is that Joma Shop has something for everyone. They have over 1,000 iconic brands, and it doesn't matter what you're looking for. If it's for you or a loved one, they have it. So now let's talk about the Stories of Hope special offer. If you've been thinking about celebrating an occasion, maybe a milestone, an anniversary, or a new relationship, this is your chance. Use the SOH20 for $20 off your order of $250 or more at jomashop.com. It's the perfect way to make a special moment with a timeless piece. So see the show notes below, type in SOH20 to get $20 off your item of $250 and more, jomashop.com. Hi, I'm Tzipora Grodko, and this is the Stories of Hope podcast. I'm so excited to be here with Malkie and Jeremy. How do you pronounce your last name?
Magence.
Magence. That's a very cool last name. It's not the kind of one where people say, "Are you related to the following?" No.
Right. Yeah. No.
And fun fact, Malkie is actually a Gordon.
Yes.
So I hunted her down in the family tree, even though I probably look like I'm more related to your family than you are. But right now you are like the mascot of this episode. So I'm really grateful that you came in. And I heard that you have a pretty extraordinary story to share with us. And I can't wait to hear it.
Thank you.
So we're going to start with you, Malkie. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from.
Well, as you already stated, I am the oldest of the Gordon clan. So there are 6 of us. I'm the oldest girl. And I like to always, say that I'm the OG.
You are the OG.
The only one that was actually planned. I grew up in Brooklyn for 13 years. We moved to the 5 towns when I was in 8th grade. And then I spent, it's been 30 years since we've been here. And I work in social media in the food medium. I have an Instagram handle called Kiss the Kosher Cook. 6 years ago, started writing for the newspaper, the 5 Towns Jewish Times. It started out mainly about my process going through the grief of losing my late husband very suddenly and raising 5 children at that time alone. Thankfully, not anymore. And I'm also a real estate agent. So, yeah. Many hats.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for the fun facts and thank you for the real facts. Have you ever gone on a podcast before to share the story?
I have been on many.
Okay. Wow.
More than I know. I've been on a lot. And I think in the beginning, people were just fascinated by the idea that somebody that has gone through, it's hard. It's funny when things are happening to you and you're in your story. People on the outside, it's the same thing I think as hearing from America what's happening in Israel today and then being in Israel and you're like, what's so bad? Everything's okay, But in America, everything is just you hear these stories about what's going on and you're like, oh my God, I would never go there. It's the same thing as life, in my life, yes, there were moments that were just completely insane. But it was me in my life and me navigating things. So on the outside, it looked a certain way to other people. But for me in my life, it was okay, this is life. This is what we're going to have to do, That's it.
It's kind of like when people say to you, I can't imagine how you got through that. And you almost feel like saying, I don't have a choice.
That's exactly it. People would always say the same thing that would, I don't want to say trigger me, but I would always get a little bit of and I'm not good when people say things that I don't like because I'll just basically say, well, that was stupid. Don't say something like that to somebody because you're so strong. Strong? Why? This is my life. What choice did I have? With 5 children, watching my every move, scrutinizing my every move every day after that happened, what was I supposed to do? Stay in bed?
Mm.
What was I going to do? I had no choice. There is no choice. There's only one option. So.
And for context, can you tell people how long you were married for when your husband passed away?
We were married for 13 years, a little shy of 13 years, rather. I had 5 children with him, 4 boys and a girl. My oldest was 11 at the time, and my youngest was a year. And before that, I could say very comfortably that I just blended in with everybody else that was doing the same thing as I was doing. And I loved it because I've always wanted to just fit in and not call attention to myself, even though like I do something that will definitely like set me apart from other people. But it was within like the means of acceptability for me. I wasn't uncomfortable with that. After this happened, I just felt like my life completely exploded, like just blew wide open. And everybody saw all the things that I don't think anybody would want people to see. Like the rawness of grief happening in real time. You can't really you can't mask that kind of feeling. It doesn't work, you know? So it was difficult.
To say the least.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your bravery and coming here to share more about that, because I know that there's many women who can relate to grief. And the more we have the conversation, the more supported people feel, the more educated community is, and the more we can alleviate something that feels so unmanageable. So your bravery is going to be healing for a lot of people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope so. That's why I'm here.
Thank you. Jeremy, tell us a little bit about yourself, please. Your background.
I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. Went to yeshiva in Israel, went to YU. While I was in YU, I met my first wife, who was from Toronto. We ended up getting engaged, decided to go to Toronto for a year before I was going to start law school. That year turned into 30. While we were there, we got married. We have 4 children who are a little bit older. The oldest is 31, a 30-year-old, a 27-year-old, and a 23-year-old. At that point, I went to law school and I have a law firm in Toronto, actually. We do personal injury law there. After about 28 years of marriage, we divorced. And I knew that I was always going to come back to the States. My siblings live in New Jersey. My parents live in St. Louis. My kids were either in Israel or New York in any event. So I had told my partners that I will stay on the firm, but I'm going to be moving back to New York. And originally I thought I was going to be in Teaneck, and then I met Malkie. And then my mother told me I was crazy for thinking about going to Teaneck, just come to the 5 towns. So that was a few years ago now.
How long are you married for?
March will be 3 years.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Thank God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that background. And you jumped the gun. I'm like, wait, don't talk about Malkie yet. We didn't get there. But thank you for that very clear background. I feel like now our listeners have a little bit of a taste to who they're listening to. And it's always helpful for context. So Malkie, let's start a little bit with you. I'm also curious to hear when you started dating before you met your first husband. What was that experience like for you? Was that easy?
In
was
a
that
word,
difficult?
a nightmare.
Tell us more. And
it's funny because this came before resumes. That's how old I am. There were no resumes when I was dating the first time around. Things were a lot more casual. Yeah, there were shadchanim and there was the whole, the things that we do, but it was just a little bit less official.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I've wanted to write an article called "The Problem with Paper" for a while, and I have to put it together. But I know that people do it because it's more organized and just more efficient in general. But I think there's a big problem with paper. I think that people get the wrong idea of who a person is that you can't get unless you see somebody face to face and you feel their energy and there's a chemistry or not a chemistry. There's so much that is lacking when you read bullet points on a paper, and it's unfortunate in the shidduchim world today.
And it sounds like you're speaking from experience, but you said this was BPC, before paper,
totally. Before
century.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you that made it such a nightmare?
I just think that it just wasn't a good experience. I got married at 25. It wasn't, but I dated from 19 to 25, and that's a nice chunk of time. And I just feel like people would call other people and describe me in the ways that, people describe other people when they're trying to get a match to happen. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of no's. There was a lot of silence. There was a lot of no dating. And as a girl, or even as a guy, it feels very, very demeaning to be the subject of that process.
Yeah, there's very few situations in life, other than, I would say, maybe a job interview, where you are being told, no, you're not wanted, you're not good enough,
you're not quite enough, interested. You're not pretty enough, you're not funny enough, you're too funny, you're too out there, you're too different, you're too interesting. Who wants to hear that? So
yeah. And I welcome a lot of compassion for everyone in the process and sensitivity for people listening. That's what it feels like for someone who's in the process for a very long time, feeling like everything they've put their heart and soul into developing, the person they've become so proud of, gets challenged when they hear that no.
It gets taken apart like with a fine-tooth comb, and you think to yourself, and you fight yourself, you fight other people saying, but I like this version. I like me. I appreciate all the work I've put into myself. Why are you telling me I'm not good enough?
And how long ago? This was 35 years ago? When did you, sorry.
No.
When did you, I wanted to flaunt that I can do math, and then I realized, I can't do math.
You must be a Gordon, because we cannot do math. So
people ask me.
Welcome to the family, Tzipora. You're officially a Gordon.
How long ago did you start dating?
So it's been, from the first time around, I'm 44. I started dating at 19, so it was 25 years.
And I asked because you share as if it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Just again to highlight how something that's so hard just doesn't.
I don't think those feelings go away. I think, and I also do think that after my husband passed, and I knew that I wanted to get remarried very early on. People, I think, are uncomfortable when I talk about that, but I knew that I didn't want to be alone. So it was like, either am I alone and just brave the single parenthood on my own and just be happy with my kids, raising of my children and the success that they have, and I'm just living vicariously through them, or do I practice vulnerability and being rejected once again, knowing what that feels like, but now this time with a full life and a history with another person, and go through that again? I don't know if I could do it, but I knew I didn't want to be alone. So it's either one or the other. So I went for it.
I know you said that you knew you didn't want to be alone. Did you feel confident that you would meet someone?
It depended on the day. There were certain days where I thought to myself, I wondered, how could this happen? How is God? And I was like, my faith in God reached a new level after he died, which is weird. You would think, you didn't, this wasn't a great move on your part. So would I be bitter and angry and resentful? Of course. But I felt the opposite. I felt like, if you could do this, I know you have something else in mind. I know you have a bigger picture and a plan that I don't know about. And I'm going to trust that you're going to make it happen. You're going to make it happen in ways that I can't even imagine it happening. And he did. So then I think to myself, I'm just going to sit back and wait. I'm going to just let it happen the way it's supposed to. Do my part, be a mother, go on some awkward, cringy dates, and then just like let life happen. That's it.
And where did you find that hope?
I just felt like if my late husband could be taken away so suddenly in such a shocking, like it was a beautiful Wednesday. There was no indication that this was going to happen. Never. I thought there has to be a bigger plan in place. I don't think God is going to intend for me to just walk through my life at this point at 38 for the rest of my life. Hopefully it'll be a long one, alone, and raise my family alone. I just didn't believe it. I just didn't believe it. That was it.
Wow. And Jeremy, as you're hearing her share all this, what's going through your mind?
And Malkie's one of the, she doesn't like when to hear this, but she really is a very strong person. And she has a wonderful sense of herself. And she's got this great heart about her. And her faith is incredible. And she really is just a beautiful person on the inside and out. And she has so much to give. And she is a very optimistic person in general. And she really helps bring that to all of us in the family when sometimes it's hope is shaky, but she's a wonderful support in that regard. So, and I've heard this story many, many times, and each time it breaks my heart that she had to go through this. But if anybody had that resilience and the power and the ability to take something so devastating and make something beautiful of it, I mean, look what she's done. She started writing, and sharing her story, and she comes on podcasts. And the truth is, people don't know all the chesed that she does. In the middle of the night, she'll get calls from women who've lost their husbands, and families will call her, and she's gone in the middle of the night. And she'll go for hours on end just to help them, to speak to them. And these are things that people don't know about. I'm probably one of the only people that really know all the things that she does to help other people in our community and other communities around the world. And she really is just an incredible person.
That's not awkward.
It's like, I'm thinking like, I'm not going to give her a standing ovation.
Please don't.
I'm not going to stand up and hug her. And as I'm listening to you, and I've known Malkie for all of 17 minutes, right? I'm just thinking, I'm so grateful that you're sharing yourself with us, that you're sharing your heart. And I just want to know more. Whenever you're in the presence of great people, sometimes you're starstruck. So I'm a little bit, and I know you're like, Sephora, come on. But it's from like a admiration place. And if you're comfortable, can we talk a little bit about that day, what it was like for you?
Oh my God, the day that he passed?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. It's crazy how, like you said before, that, you remember these milestones, these moments in life that happen, as far back as your childhood. But there are certain moments in life that you'll remember as if it's happening today. It's ingrained in your mind forever, even if you don't want it to be. And I remember like every moment, like it just happened, It was a pretty ordinary day. I had a list of errands to run. It was a Wednesday. I ran to the grocery store to get dinner ingredients. My husband was going to be home for the first night that week. For the 2 previous days, he had smachot. So, and I didn't go because at that point, when you have a little kid at home, it's just more of a bother. It's just, it's hard to get babysitters. She was a year old. Having somebody else put her to sleep would have been just too much. So I told him to go on his own. He was happy to do so. Wednesday night was the first night he was coming home, and I was going to make meatballs. And I walk into the grocery store, and it was the week that they started covering the shelves for Pesach, and they play this crazy game. Like they mix all of the stuff up in the store so you can't locate any of your ingredients where they usually are. So I walk in and I'm like, where's the Heinz chili sauce? Like, why isn't it in the same spot? If you have to cover the shelf, cover it and put it back where it belongs, you know? So I'm sort of like in a tizzy looking around for all my stuff, and I get a phone call. I see it's my husband's partner. And I don't know what I thought at that moment, but I said, maybe his phone is dead, but no, because he works by a desk within like a charger. Why would it be dead? Where would he be? He wouldn't be anywhere else. He's always in the office. He had the managerial job. Like he was always like, you know, making sure everybody was where they were supposed to be. So I got a phone call from a Hatzalah member that was using his phone, his partner's phone, telling me what had happened. He had been found at his desk, and they had told me that they wanted to send a bus. I thought to myself, a bus? Like a yellow school bus? I didn't know what they meant. Send a bus to my location. I thought to myself, what bus? What do you mean? I'm at the grocery store. I'm getting dinner ingredients. Like, and I kept thinking to myself, like, oh, like when I get to where he is, I'm going to be so annoyed that this happened in my day. Like, I'm going to be like, can you not do this anymore? You know, never anticipating, never thinking or expecting that the outcome would look differently than I thought it would. So he basically tells me, listen, you need to get here as soon as possible. I'm in the 5 towns. This is in Brooklyn. I called my mother-in-law, told her what happened. She said, I'll meet you by your house in a few minutes. I had a full cart, overflowing cart in the middle of the grocery store. And I remember screaming into the phone when this Hatzalah member called me asking, is he alive? And of course I thought he would say yes. He's stable. We're just going to transfer him. But he hesitated for a second and he said, for now. I don't know who it was. I don't know his name. I don't know if he was just making sure that I would get into my car and get to the destination without having a nervous breakdown. I think that's why they wanted to send an ambulance to me. They didn't want me to drive. But I wouldn't let that happen because I wanted to change the events of that day. I wanted to make it like it was going to go the way I planned it to go. They were going to stabilize him. I would meet him in a hospital, wherever they put him, and we'd be fine. Because that's what humans could do, right? Anyway, so I get into my mother-in-law's car. I leave a cart overflowing in the middle of the grocery store. They must have thought I was crazy. I went back a couple weeks later because I wanted to go back into that store and normalize that just because this happened, it would not happen to me again in that way. So I went back. But before that happened, I went with my mother-in-law in the car. We got a lot of phone calls on the way from all the principals, all the schools that had heard that, you know, he was just been on a Tehillim list, like it was like 11:30 in the morning. And then it was like the longest drive I've ever experienced, which is so funny. But when they told us to go to my sister-in-law's house in Brooklyn instead of a hospital, that was my first indication that something wasn't right. And I saw 2 Hatzalah members that my mother-in-law mentioned to me. Oh, I know those guys. I thought to myself, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. We go into my sister-in-law's house. We sit down. After a little bit of time, they told me the news. And then we drove back to the neighborhood. And it's like you said, before the resumes, and then after resumes, I know that everybody lives like one life, but this was not. Like, I lived my life beforehand, and that was the end of my first life, and then this new life had started, officially begun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It's something that I think when any person experiences challenge, grief of any sort, broken marriage, it's something that people think happens to other people, right? I think that's something
absolutely.
that comes up a lot.
Yes.
And then when it happens to when that person becomes the other people, it's like you enter this whole new universe of perspective, of sensitivity. And I want to hear what you would tell someone who, what you needed, that if someone's listening who knows someone who lost a spouse, and they want to help, what's something you might suggest they do?
Okay. So I think one of the most important, one of the misconceptions specifically about, I would say, well, loss in general, but sudden loss, which is a different subcategory of loss, right? Not the same thing as sitting in a hospital, which is not any, it's difficult for years with a sick spouse or any family member. I'm not downplaying that. I'm not saying that's not hard. It's brutal. It's horrible. Sudden loss is a different subcategory because you need to grapple with the finality of what happened and also that shock that comes along with something so suddenly happening that was not the case 10 minutes before. It's a nightmare. There's nothing else to say. I think that people, after a couple of months of supporting their loved one, their friend, their relative, they, in their perspective, they're thinking, oh, how much longer? How much longer do I have to do this? How much longer is she going to feel like this? How much longer do I have to be all ears 24/7 whenever she needs? I can't do this. I have things to tend to. I have there's no expiration. There's no expiration. And everybody's process of grief looks different. There's no manual, right? So it's hard to hear that. It's like an answer that's not really an answer. The best thing that you could do is validate somebody's feelings and listen to them, because what they're doing, like in their grief, they're just talking things out. They're making it a part of their reality. There's 5 stages of grief, really 6 stages, but that's because some guy, Mr. Kessler, Dr. Kessler, made like the 6th stage of grief, but that's like a new thing. But it could take from months to years to get through the denial, the bargaining, the anger. It's like, it takes forever. And it's not linear. It doesn't go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. It goes back and forth like a ball bouncing off a wall. You just don't know what in that day, what's going to hit you and how hard it'll hit you. And you can have a good day, and then you can just like regress and have a really hard day. So for me personally, I knew that I had these very young children that were like watching my every move. And I desperately wanted them to know that even though I didn't feel like I was up for this challenge, that we would be okay. I'd be fine. I think they must have known. Not the younger ones because they were young, but my older ones, like I would make it seem like I got this. We'll be fine. In reality, I had a team. I had a support system. I had friends. I had friends that would call me and tell me that, oh, you got to sign up for camp or else you're going to be locked out. Or has anybody paid your bills this month? Or, things I had never done. All of a sudden I had to figure out all that whole other part of, that I'd never thought about. That was not my job. So it takes a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of and as a friend, as a person that's a support system for somebody else going through this, you could take on something that practically that is good. That's something that you could do. Doesn't always have to be sitting with coffee and lunch and hearing her cry about her life and what it's amounted to, or it could be let's get a financial planner in here. Let's get somebody to look through your books. Let's pay your bills, put everything on auto payment. Let's do something practical to make your life easier. But I think everybody has those people in their lives. You just, as a friend, choose something that you could tackle. That's all. Let me babysit. I'm going to send you flowers. I'm going to send you, I had a woman that I barely know in my son's class that would make deli roll every Shabbos. Now, this is what I did. I was an Instagram food blogger. Like, you're dropping off a foil wrapped deli roll on my doorstep every Erev Shabbos. I would, a couple of weeks, would open my door and it would be there with a good Shabbos written on. I was like, this is her service to me. This is her love. This is her telling me, like, it's one less thing you have to do.
I think what you're sharing is so powerful, which is everyone has a responsibility to community,
Yes.
to friends,
Yes.
to Klal Yisrael.
Yeah.
And when someone is in pain, they have less. And right now you have more. And what can you do to alleviate their pain? Psychologically, there's emotional support, instrumental support, strategic support. And when you're in need, you need all of them.
Everything.
And everyone has a different strength. And how can they help?
The thing with a person that goes through this type of loss is that they look like everybody else, but they are completely stripped away of the life that they remember. They are starting from scratch. They don't remember. It's weird to describe to people that haven't gone through it, but you're like a child. You forget everything. I remember in the beginning when all I could do before my kids would get home at 4:00 in the afternoon was take a shower and get makeup on. That was it. All I could do. I couldn't do anything.
Of course, grieving is a full-time job.
It's such a weight. It's so hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I saw Nissen nodding his head as you were saying, I wanted my kids to know that we got this. So I think it's safe to say that you did an exemplary job.
With my family. They were really great. I have 4 brothers, and each brother would come on one night of every night of the week, right? So Mondays was Dovi, Tuesdays was Yochanan, Wednesdays was Nissen, and Nachi was Thursday, and then Shabbos we'd have plans. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that.
Thank you.
Wow. It's a lot for everyone to hear, and I think it's very healing too. I think it's really healing. So thanks for using your pain to heal. Thank you seems silly, but it's just the language is Latin. So I'm using those words, but I hope you could feel that in my heart. I mean so much more.
Absolutely.
We're going to pause here for now.
Sure.
If you've ever wanted something more than anything in the world, then you've probably tried a segula or two. And if you're anything like me, then you've been dejected and disappointed when it seems like it didn't work. And that's why I love this organization called Better Than a Segula. Like their name, we learn on Simchas Torah, Ein Segula Ketorah. There is no better segula than Torah study. What this organization does is they have a group of Torah scholars that will learn something on your behalf in the zechus of what you want. And even better, the entire process is personalized. They can study a certain daf in the Gemara for 40 days, whatever you want, whatever speaks to your heart, whatever you connect to, you can let them know. So if this is something that you would find supportive, inspiring, and encouraging, you can contact them by either clicking the show notes below or take out your phone and call them at 732-364-7029. That's betterthanasegula.org. Better Than a Segula, an organization that's there to support you in the way that they know how to and in the way that they can. If you're getting married or know someone getting married, let's talk about one of the most meaningful parts of a Jewish wedding, the kasuba. For some people, you may have seen it just as a regular piece of paper, but this is actually a symbol that represents the harmony, the beauty of your relationship. Ketubah.com takes your kasuba and turns it into the beautiful piece of art that it really is. With over 500 different designs and artists from all over the world, you can personalize the perfect kasuba of your dreams with a team that works intimately with you, making sure that your design and your words are exactly what you want. Ketubah.com guarantees a kasuba that's probably better than you even dreamed. The best part is, if you go to ketubah.com and type in SOH25, you'll receive free shipping on your kasuba that may be flying in from Australia, London, even South Africa. Get this beautiful design as a gift or for yourself from ketubah.com. Make sure to type in SOH25 to receive free shipping and find the link in the bio below. Get your beautiful piece from ketubah.com today. Jeremy, after you got divorced and you were adjusting to that new lifestyle in the community, what was that like for you?
It was a challenge, no question about it. We got divorced shortly before COVID, so that created a whole nother nuance. And I made a conscious decision. We only had one. Our youngest was still at home. He was graduating high school. I made a conscious decision to stay only a couple blocks away so that I could be close to them and we could get together. And then one of our daughters and her husband moved from New York back, and they also were in the neighborhood. So this way I could be near them. But it was very lonely, partially because you go from a couple in the community, and we were very involved in everything, every school, shul, community, to finding a new identity. And then COVID hits on top of it. And Toronto was the worst place for COVID.
I heard stories.
It was, and whatever you hear is just a fraction of really what it was. And it was very isolating. I mean, the hardest probably had to be the Pesach of COVID, because one of our sons who was in medical school in New York came home, and he had COVID before anybody knew what it really was. He picked up in the hospital one of his shifts. So they were all isolating together, which means I couldn't see anybody.
Oh no.
So I was doing the Siddharim by myself. So that was a new, but I, like Malkie, in a somewhat different sense, I knew that this was not going to be my reality forever. And I was determined to create a new identity for myself. And one of the biggest things was really working with a really good therapist to really find who I really was. We met when my first wife and I met when we were young. We were 19 years old. We got married very young and didn't have that chance to really forge my own identity before I was part of a couple. And I took that time to really work on myself in order to try to figure out who I was and what did I want to be and how did I want to live my life as an individual before I could then be part of another couple. And it was a lot of work. So that the beginning part was much more challenging and lonely. Would happen quite common in divorce situations. Our friends take sides. And this was no different. A lot of the people who I'd been very close to were no longer were speaking with me. I had other friends who took the position, well, we're not going to take sides. So that left them really on my side. Unfortunately, I don't like using that term, but that's a reality of what happens. And I made new friends, and it was different. But I also realized that that I really only need a few really good friends in my life. I don't need a large swath of friends that we had before. And it was sobering. But it was also there was something very freeing about all of it, and losing certain externalities that really realized weren't important, and got to really be me and really who I was and who I wanted to be, and focus on that.
Wow. It's like, you're saying, so like you're expressing it so well, how you were lonely and then people picked sides. And I'm hearing there's a lot of grief there too, because there's loss of community, there's loss of friendships. And I want to make sure that people understand these words like lonely, or other than illness, and grief, one of the worst feelings in the world.
Loneliness is,
and losing friendships, like those are such difficult challenges. And I commend your choice to pursue therapy, to say, even if it happened, that would be the norm. I won't get stuck, but I will grow forward.
Right. And I, like Malkie, I also had the benefit of a really wonderful support system of my family. The hard part is my family lives all out of town.
That is hard.
Between St. Louis and New York, but there was not a day that went by that I didn't hear from everybody. And even a few friends would check on me constantly. And I was so grateful for them because they really, the times that, they allowed me to go from a sense of loneliness to just being alone. Right? There's such a huge difference. You can be alone and you can do your thing and you can find a sense of fulfillment and move forward and be happy, versus being lonely, where that you like Malkie was discussing, in her own story, you can't do anything. There's that depression, that grief, that loneliness that doesn't allow you to move forward. And I'm very grateful for that support system that I had too, that really helped me move past this.
So if someone is going through this experience and they're feeling really stuck, it sounds like you're telling anyone that knows them, friends, family, community, show up because they really need you at that time.
Oh, absolutely. Divorce is a little bit more commonplace. People don't find it to be, it's not as tragic as a death of a spouse. But there is still that a lot of the same feelings and a lot of the same experiences. And that's one of the things that Malkie and I have been able to, our experiences were very different, but the feelings there's a lot of commonality in the feelings that we've been able to bond over and to share and to.
It's a loss.
Yeah.
It doesn't look the same, but it's a loss. It's a loss of the life that you've become the most familiar with. And then there's that decline of social status, reinvention of the person that you thought you were, but you no longer are. You have to literally start from scratch. Who am I? I don't remember who I was before him. Who am I now? I'm like a grown adult with 5 children. Who am I? What do I like? Did I like that stuff because he liked it, or do I like it? All this stuff. As a divorced couple, as a widowed couple. So.
Yeah. This, like, on top of everything else you're dealing with, it's this new journey of self-discovery. Or
big time.
Or if you feel like you don't have the energy yet, it's like self-stuck-overy. Like you don't know what to do.
And you need to go through all of these. And listen, I think that people meet others that they forge relationships with at different times in their life. I've heard people within the year to over 10 years, whatever it is, right? It's very important to go through some of these stages on your own. It's not comfortable. Nobody likes it, but it's very important.
Yeah.
It's very important.
My therapist told me that you got to get to the bottom. And once you reach the bottom, now just wallow in it for a while. You can't take a shortcut, because if you do that, you're not helping yourself at all, and you're not going to really learn and grow from it. So as uncomfortable as that bottom is, just stay in it, tread water. And then after a bit, then you could start to climb out of it. And then you really will have achieved that maximum healing that you can.
I forgot who said it, but it's somebody well-known. The only way round is through.
Yeah.
So.
Oof. It's so powerful. I remember for a long time, if it's okay for me to share.
Sure.
It was so solution focused. Okay, let's figure out what the obstacle is and let's pave through, gas, fueling, tires, screeching and all. And it took me a while to learn that the grief was a huge part of the process of not just pushing through, but getting through. And whenever I meet with my clients and in my course that I have, the very first subject, people get all excited and their sleeves are rolled up like, okay, I'm about to get this, like, drug-inducing, inspirational, feel-good stuff. And I'm like, the first subject is grief. You have to address the pain you're in order to be able to process it so that you can move forward. And in our like, constantly fast-paced inspirational messages, inspirational videos where we're always seeking something that feels good, I love the content that says it's so hard.
So hard.
And that's the norm.
That's it.
Be there. And I love what your therapist said. Be there, because by being there, you think it's threatening, but it's actually what's going to be part of your liberation. And I don't know if we talk about that enough.
I think people are very uncomfortable and try to avoid other people that are in the throes of grief. It's very hard to see somebody struggling like that. So I think that there's a lot of stigma attached to that. And sometimes you can't put a pretty bow on it and be like, okay, we're done now.
Mm-hmm.
Go on your way. Be happy. It's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not okay.
And I think the hardest part too, though, to add to that is we as people want to avoid pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's our flight or fight,
right?
Personalities. It's ingrained to us. So as soon as it gets a little bit uncomfortable, we're like, okay, we're done now. We're good.
Run.
Right. And, we're okay now. I was sad for a bit, so now I'm better. And we don't want to continue to push and realize that there's a difference between hurt and harm, that you can have pain and that's not going to hurt you. It's not harmful to you. It hurts, but it's not harmful to you. And that's the part that, people need to be constantly reminded of, that, and that's where all that support from family and friends come in is, I'm going to support you as when you're going through this. My mother was great. She says, you're not doing this alone. Mm-hmm. You can't do this by yourself. It is too painful to do certain things by yourself. We will support you. We will hold you up while you go through it, but you're going to go through it, and you need to go through it. And then only afterwards will you be able to then start to move on your own. And you don't need our support as much.
So powerful. So powerful. I hope everyone goes back 10 seconds and re-listens to this again and writes it down. It's life-changing information, because what you're doing is you're battling between your mind and your heart. Your heart is saying run, but when you listen to what Jeremy said, so you could not have said it better, your mind has to know this is going to be okay. This is not harmful. And for so long, we've been taught to believe that you need to wait for things to change in order for life to get better. And you deserve to live the life of your dreams before things change. And that's what Live Better Academy is here for, enabling you to enrich your life by exploring the 5 core areas that contribute to your fulfillment and happiness. This course is here to make sure that you no longer need to wait. Exploring spirituality, health and wellness, recreation and soul, social support and environment, and your profession and ambition, my course helps you understand what you're missing, explore any gaps that need areas of improvement, and truly understand what you need to do to create the life that you deserve. It's a 5-week course, so you have to be fully committed. But the easy part is that it's all virtual. You can access it anywhere and anytime. It includes pre-recorded classes, intense coursework material to take the information, turn it into application, and ultimately transformation, and a live group class, which includes me and your peers. It's truly extraordinary, and I want you to be a part of it. So if you're interested, click the link below to schedule your free 15-minute consultation to see if it's the right fit for you, or send a quick text message to the number below to schedule your free 15-minute consultation. I cannot wait to meet you and be on this journey with you so that you can finally live life better. On that note, how long was it before you met Malkie?
So I was divorced in December of 2019. And we met it was June 18th, 2021. We met online.
On a dating app.
On a dating app, JWed, which used to be Fromster back in the day. And it was, if there ever was hashgacha pratit, this was it. It was the middle of the night. It was a Thursday night.
It was the middle of the night.
Literally the middle of the night. I had gotten a call from a friend of mine who became my friend during COVID after I'd separated, and he was my neighbor, and he was going through his own matrimonial issues, and he needed to come and hang out, drink, talk, kind of work through some of his stuff. And by the time we finished, it was 2:00 in the morning, and it was COVID. I was working from home. And I went back to my computer to kind of shut down certain things. And in the background, I had my JWed app open. And I said, look, God, if you want me to meet the person I'm supposed to meet, you're going to help me. And that's it. And Malkie literally was on page 20. It was the only person I had seen. I clicked on her profile. Anybody who knows Malkie knows that she's not going to write a very boring little blurb about herself. And the humor in it was so good. Besides the fact she was beautiful, but just that humor, it was like, I have to reach out to her. Clicked on and liked, sent a message, closed up my computer, walked up the stairs, and within 10 minutes, maybe, I got a message on my app on my phone.
Can you imagine that it's 2:00 in the morning and I see this little one on the app, and I never even opened this app because of the type of person I would get messages from. I was like, why do I even have this on my phone anymore? It was just for at night, let's have some fun. Let's write some witty, funny stuff, back and forth. It makes me feel less alone. That's it. I didn't think anything was going to come of it. I saw a message from him. It was 2 a.m. And I don't know. Why didn't I play it cool and be like, I'm going to get back to him in the morning? I was like, no, 2:15 in the morning sounds like the perfect time to do this. So I wrote back to him, and then we just started back and forth for maybe a half hour. And then he said good Shabbos the next day.
No, you forgot a part.
What?
At that point, I said, can we go off this and talk?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really talk versus, and we actually, I think we spoke on the phone.
Yeah.
The old fashioned way, as opposed to texting each other.
And that was it. That was the beginning.
Wow. So you had JWed, but you didn't really think anything would come out of it because it was not something that...
I just, from past experience, I would get messages from people. Sometimes I would go through their profile and be like, this is not shaykh. This is not a match. And usually my go-to would be like, I have a 3-year-old and 4 other children. I'd be subsequently ghosted. That was my go-to. But I tried that. I tried all the stuff. I put it all out there in the beginning. That's the thing with second time around dating. There is less of that dance, that beginning, that it's more of, okay, let's talk tachlis because I don't have any time for this stuff. Okay. My day is tight. I've got a lot of children. I'm going to put it all out there. You're going to tell me, is this something that I could consider, that I can entertain? I have 5 children and the oldest is 11. And he was like, amazing. What are their names? What do they do? What school are they in? What do they like to do? I was like, what on earth? What on earth? He had 4 children that he raised into adulthood. They were gone. He was an empty nester. He was free. Why would anybody in their right minds? And probably up until last week, I probably asked him, are you sure? Are you sure you want to hang around and stick around here? And he was like,
last week. It was yesterday.
I kept thinking to myself, why would anybody want to dive back in, go about this a second time around and raise children with somebody else's children with me? It just didn't make any sense to me. I don't think it makes sense to a lot of people. A lot of the guys that messaged me, and then I would say, hey, I have 5 children. They're so cute. And then I would never hear from them again.
So if it's okay, how come that was something that you were okay with?
One of the strengths that I think I'm pretty good at is parenting.
Really good.
So these things I wasn't afraid of that. That wasn't, for me, it was all about finding the right person to be with. And there was something about Malkie from the very beginning that was like, this is worth exploring. I really have to figure out what's going on. And if this is, Shaq, remember, I'm in Toronto now. And so this is going to be a bigger move. Now, my plan was to come down here, and I was already looking, but this was already going to be, it was going to make certain things a little bit more challenging at first. But there was something about her that was so intriguing in such a wonderful way that, okay, we're going to explore this. So the things like the kids really wasn't a problem for me because I've done this before. I figure I have somewhat of a handle. There's not going to be too many surprises. So let's, if it's the right person, then that to me was the most important thing.
And when did you know that you wanted to marry Jeremy?
Oh my God. I think it was like really, Our story is a little bit, how this all came about was also a little bit unusual. It was not, everything was very unconventional in terms of our story, only because I came down to go out with her once or twice. July 4th weekend.
Right.
I had 3 kids in sleepaway camp. Just like the idea that all of this happened, that timing wise, the way it did was like really just straight from Hashem. Like it was, I saw so many little parts of this that I was like, it has to be God and also Moishe. He's like, he's there. He's like, listen, she's been through the ringer. We got to help her out. We got to do her a solid. Okay. We're going to get this done. And, throughout his loss, trying to make sure my kids were okay, COVID a year later, I was like, could you please do something? Help me out here. Help a sister out. Like, I'm struggling. This is too much. But this happened the first week of July. I had 3 kids in sleepaway camp. I had 2 kids at home. That was basically a vacation for me. And he messaged me. He was so different than other guys that would string me along for 4 weeks before saying, oh, let's go out for coffee. Let's go to a Starbucks. And I was like, what took you so long? That's what I was dealing with. That was like the norm for me. And I would just hold on because what else was I doing? Where else was I going? I wasn't getting dates. I wasn't having no shadchana were calling me up and saying, I have a guy for you. I think everybody thought, oh, she's still dealing with the loss of her husband. She's not going to want to date for a long time. I had people message me on Instagram that barely know me and say, maybe just raise your children first and then you can start dating. And I was like, that must be really comfortable to do while you're home with your family. How about no? But it happened in the summer, the first week that they were in camp. He came down July 4th weekend. We went on a date and then his car died.
Technically, my car died on the way
in.
Brand new car.
Yeah.
It needed a new transmission.
Yeah.
Honestly, it sounds a little romantic. Like, I don't mind.
Yeah. It could be a movie.
I got halfway into this drive from Toronto, and it's a good... I had the Teaneck Road down 8 hours with stops. So going the 5 towns was going to be another, it's 9.5, 10 hours. Half hour into this, all of a sudden my transmission light goes on a brand new car. I'm like, this is not good. God, you got to get me to where I need to go. I'm not turning around. And made it down, picked her up. We went out the first night. And I said, we figure we'll go out again the next day. I was staying in a hotel. I brought work down with me. I worked for a little bit. We went out that evening with a bunch of friends of hers. And then I had to take my car in to be checked. And they said, no problem. We can get you a new transmission in 5 weeks. It's COVID. You need a Canadian part on top of it. So you're stuck here. So the 2 dates turned into 5 weeks.
No way.
And our subsequent dates did not look like dinner out or, you know, we did dates at the dentist office with my son. I had needed somebody else to hold that side of his body down while he was getting fillings. It was like, 2 weeks after we started dating, I said, do you want to come with me to the dentist with Gavi? Because they're going to want to.
It was the first week.
They're going to want to they're going to want to put him out in the hospital. And I really don't want to do that. Do you think you could just like come and just hold down his left side so we could just get the fillings done? And he was like, that sounds so romantic. Let's do it. You know, there was a date out with the little kids. We went to dinner that was like maybe like a month after we started dating. I took them out to a restaurant on Central Avenue for dinner because like when you raise children and you're dating the second time around, it looks different. You can't gloss over your life in the same way and just make everything look so seamless and beautiful because you've got these things called children that have needs that have to be met before your own. Mm. So one Sunday night, I was taking them to dinner. He messaged me, what are you doing? I said, let's go to dinner. You can meet them. They were 3 and 6. We're sitting waiting for our food. Rosie's 3 years old and she's looking at this man across the table and she said, are you my daddy? And I was like, are the fries ready? And he was such a champ. He was such a good sport. She's a 3-year-old. Well, what was he supposed, you know? Mm-hmm. Sweet, innocent. Yeah. Who's this man hanging out with us? Yeah. Maybe he's daddy.
Mm-hmm. Well, the best one had to be, it was actually that first week. This was on a Wednesday. I was going to go to my brother. I thought she was going to go to visit her family in Montauk.
Yes. I was
on Thursday. So I figured, okay, we'll go out Wednesday and then you'll go Thursday and then we'll go out again next week since I'm now here. Mm-hmm. I figured I'll go to my brother in Teaneck for Shabbos. And she's like, would you like to come?
He said they're under construction. They have no kitchen. We're going to just sit on a bunch of milk crates and have Chinese out of the boxes. And I said, do you want to like come? They need a bal tefillah for Shabbos.
They need a bal koreh
for Shabbos. I can ask my cousin if she has room. And she was like, if he's willing to lane Matos Maseh, he can come. So he was like, Matos Maseh, that's a cinch.
Yeah.
It's the longest parsha in the Torah.
Who can learn?
No biggie.
I can learn 248, psukim in 2 days. So I said, no problem. We went up there. God really does love me because they didn't have a minion, so I didn't have to lane.
Oh,
I learned like 3 or 4 of them.
So here's my question. You dated for a total of how long after? Around?
So
January?
No. Well, yeah. By when we ended up, by the time my car gets fixed, mm-hmm. So it's now middle of August. By that point already, we knew this was.
He was at that point. Yeah, he was already looking at places in Teaneck to rent, and his mother was she said to him, "Why are you going to be traveling from Teaneck to the Five Towns every other day? That seems to make no sense. Mm-hmm. Just find a rental in the Five Towns." At that point, I spoke to my broker. He had a new rental in Cedarhurst, and that was Jeremy's rental.
So I rented it. I went. By that point already, we knew this. We were pretty sure that this was.
But done. At that point, the kids have to start processing this change, getting to know him, dating him. He has to date not just me. He has to date the family.
Right.
Everybody has to be on board. Everybody has to be happy. It can't be. I used to hear stories from random people in grocery stores. Like I started writing after my late husband's loss, and people would say to me, "Oh, my mother got remarried very shortly after my father died, and we never really liked my stepfather, and I was like, that cannot be my story. Mm. That cannot be our story. I'm not going to compromise the happiness of my children for my own sake. I want them to see and to know with everything that they have that like, I did this for them. I did this so we could do the most fun things together, take trips together, be a family. We had brunch yesterday. I was like, this is crazy looking. Like, look at us, like I want us to all enjoy each other, get along with each other. But it's the thing is, it's a family. Like we have the same family things everybody else has, it's great. It's great.
And how old were the two of you when you got married?
So I was 51.
And I was
41.
41, yeah.
So it's been 3 years, blended family, and obviously independently and together, tremendous growth. What would be your takeaway to people that are listening that are in it for the second time around, maybe even third time around, and are really struggling? What hope might you give them? And we'll start with you, Malkie.
Okay, so first of all, I want people to know that blending families could look so many different ways. It doesn't all have to be the Brady Bunch where she had 3 and he had 3 and they moved in together and it was a scripted series and everybody got along so nicely. That's just not reality. That's why it's a TV show. It looked different because I had kids that were a good decade younger than all of his children. Do I know for certain that if he brought 4 children into our marriage that I had to raise in addition, would it be as seamless as, easy? I can't say easy. It's work. All of this is work. But just know, like, before he messaged me, I thought to myself, there's no way I could take on an entire family of children and be their mother in addition to the children that I'm raising as a single mother. I can't do it all. And you need to know that there are defining roles when it comes to being a second wife, a stepmother to children that have a wonderful mother, right? I am their stepmother, but I'm more like the fun aunt, that like shops for them and hangs out and like we chat, we have fun. It didn't take no time. It took years to get here. And it looks different for everybody. I spoke to somebody the other day that said right away, it just sort of like worked. Everybody sort of got along. And that's like not very uncommon. I say statistically, a lot of second time around marriages don't succeed because of the children involved. It's very difficult. And there are couples that have good, solid relationships that love each other and they can't be together because either she isn't right for his kids, he isn't right for her kids, the kids don't get along with each other. There are so many different ways, like endless math equations. You just never know. There are so many different ways that this could go wrong. So many different ways. But it's like embarking on any relationship or dating somebody for the first time and getting to know them. Like, you need to know your role and you need to like make sure you stay within that realm of acceptability. You don't want to be forceful. And it looked different for my children that needed a father figure that they found in Jeremy. And it looks different for me being that step parent for his children who are adults, but we know who we have to be, who we want to be for each other's children. And that's very important. It's very important to like know that it could look different for everybody. Blending families could look different for each person. There are so many different ways that it could happen.
Yeah.
And I can't say for certain that if he came with 4 school-age children, that this would have been like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But the way it worked for us, the way he, it really just, it really went well. And not right away.
Healthy, honest expectations that it looks different for everyone. And if it's challenging, that's pretty normal. That makes sense. And I'm hearing appreciate your role, but also know the limitations that it has.
Absolutely.
And what message of hope would you give for someone who just doesn't know if they'll find love again?
You have to really believe it. My mother used to say this thing, and it would be so annoying, I think, for a few reasons. A, because she would say it. So we hear what our mothers say and you're like, that's stupid. Of course, that's not going to happen. But even when I was dating the first time around, she'd say, if you want it, it will happen. But you have to really want it. You have to really believe it. Believe it into existence. Make it a part of your everyday as if it's imminent. It's going to happen. It's like Ani Mamin. Like I used to write these Ani Mamins every day. And I would say it as if it was my actual reality when it really was, and it was anything but. But I would say, I am happy, I am smart, I am witty. I have a wonderful husband who loves me and loves my children as if they were. I was so alone, it was comical. But I wrote these things and read them back when I had coffee every morning. And it was my own personal, like, Ani Mamin, like, this is happening. This is happening. And then it happens. That's it.
Tuck that one in your pocket, put it on your mirror, everywhere you could see it.
Absolutely.
Everyone. Please, please. You can manifest the life that you want. Don't hold 100%. Yourself back. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Jeremy, what about you? What hope would you give to someone that's still waiting?
So I think the two things that are really important a second time around are patience and communication. I'm not a patient person by nature at all. And especially when you go through your own personal trauma, you've been doing this before. My kids didn't know what was going on in my head for years before. So by the time I got to a certain point, I was ready to move forward with my life, but they're still processing their own grief and trauma and the world that they knew that had changed. So I was light years ahead of them. So when I'm ready to date, they're like, we're not ready for you to date. And when I wanted them to develop a relationship with Malkie, they're like, we're not ready for that yet. And I was always that much further ahead. And it took me a long time. And, again, working with a therapist and working with, and having also a partner like Malkie who was very understanding of what was going on, because you have that balance. You want to show sensitivity to your kids, but you also want to show sensitivity to your spouse. And you feel like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And you're going to disappoint somebody and someone's going to get hurt. But Malkie was amazing at showing patience also.
I mean,
You were.
I had moments where I was like, why won't they come over? They're not ready. When are they going to be ready? I don't know.
Right. Once we allowed the kids to get there, and having adult kids who could articulate their feelings was really important. Like, we want to get there. We're just not there yet. Give us time, give us space. We will get there.
And it just literally happened one day. It happened one day.
Out of nowhere. And thank God it's been, and it's normalized. And Malkie has an independent relationship with the kids from me. She'll message, the girls will message. I don't even know that they're talking. And I'm so grateful because, again, we talk about manifestation. That's all I would daven for, was to find someone and to have this kind of relationship. And then once we were married, to just, God, make this normal. Let everybody get along, and let's have the family that I've always envisioned, and let's make it happen. And she, Malkie was great with her patience, and one day it happened. So patience is critical. And communication is really, because there's more moving parts now. It's not just when you're dating the first time, it's the couple that's communicating. And thank God, I think we're really good at communicating amongst ourselves, but now you have to communicate with your adult children, in my case, and see how they're feeling and check in with them and deal with them, and communicating with new kids who you're developing a different relationship with them. Now, I consider myself incredibly blessed that the kids are amazing. They were very open, very accepting, very loving. Malkie went off to Israel for doing a volunteer mission for NCSY for women, came home, and the kids are calling me dad. Right?
Yeah. Like, that happened when I was gone. I was like, what happened?
Right. And we've become that there's just a certain sense of normalcy. But, and, look, as parents, we will make mistakes and it's constantly communicating with the kids. Okay, this is, how I'm feeling. This is what you did wrong. And it's that much more sensitivity and communication. And those are things that are, if you do that, then really things can work out exactly the way you wanted them to be.
Well, there's nothing that's a better teacher other than experience. And the two of you are such evolved people who have clearly done the right work, right? Because everyone can do work, but if it's not the right work, then it will reflect in the structure. And you have an empire, this beautiful empire. And I found it so inspiring, and I'm so grateful that you shared it with us today. So thank you for coming in to share your unbelievable story of hope.
Thank you for having us.
We really do appreciate it. And we're hoping that people can take, something from this conversation.
They're going to take a lot more than one thing. I'll tell you that much. Thank you for watching another episode of Stories of Hope. If you want us to continue this exceptional work, and you're a part of the work, you have a story that you want to share, please let me know. Yep, it's me. I will see the email. I will see the message. I will respond. Please let me know by emailing us at soh@meaningfulminute.org. We would love to continue providing exceptional content. And we're a team. So welcome aboard and please join ours. Thank you for being a part of the change. And thank you for watching this episode.